and Darmothers alike, and welcome to my First Thoughts episode for episode 12. I keep getting tempted to say episode 1, 2, and 3. Episode 12 of Shadowhunter Season 2B, You're Not Your Own. The first thing I want to talk about is body switching in the Shadow universe as a concept, because if you've watched my podcasts with Neve, particularly the ones on City of Glass, you will know that this isn't a new kind of idea in the lore of the Shadowhunters universe. Trying to find the right word there. In City of Glass, the book, there's a very stupid plot in my opinion where Clary uses her super uber duper angelic abilities to create a rune that means that a shadow hunter can bind themselves with a downworlder and a downworlder can bind themselves with a shadow hunter. Why is that a problem, may you ask? Well, the rune gave the shadow hunters the ability to use downworlder powers, like Alec binds with Magnus, meaning that Alec can use Magnus's powers without training, without being told how to use the magic. The knowledge is just there. Can you see the problem here? At least, and this is something that I really, really respected in this episode, I was kind of curious over the week, like, is Valentine going to have access to Magnus's powers, or is he going to, like, not know how to unlock that part of Magnus's self? But no, he had the ability, and I was just like, oh my god. I was like, this is going to be like that stupid rune in City of Glass, where he's just going to be able to be like that, and as if Magnus training himself wasn't for nothing, because the Shadow Hunters can just do it, you know, because they're that smart. But no, he didn't know how to use it, and he had to bring in Madame Dorothea, and I thought that was very important, because in the book, the Shadowhunters just knew how to use downworlder powers. They're just that good. They were able to access the Warlock's powers, the Vampire's abilities, the Fae's spells. They just knew. This rune helped them just know. You know, because, you know, those damn Shadowhunters, they're just so perfect. They don't need training. They don't need to be taught how to use powers they've never had access to before. They just know. I think you know that I don't like the books. From the podcast, if you've been watching it, you kind of get that idea, but I feel like the body switching was in a lot more clever way of introducing this idea of shadow hunters using downworlder powers. And they didn't just know, weirdly enough. Valentine had to get Dorothea in to tell him what to do. I'm still not quite happy that all it took was, like, I don't even know, this was all within the span of a couple of days, if even. I think it might have been one day. Still kind of dodgy that he was able to master it in that time. But honestly, I'll take anything over just having the knowledge like that, just because that was something that really bothered me, amongst other things, in City of Glass in particular. So I feel like the way Shadowhunters went with this idea was a lot more clever than just going, ooh, a rune, oh, I can use powers now. And I get that wasn't the way they were going with this episode, and maybe that rune will get introduced later. I really fucking hope it won't. But maybe the rune will get introduced later and Shadowhunters will start binding themselves with Downworlders. But I'm hoping that they will keep this idea of needing to be trained instead of just being like, I can use it. I'm an uber duper Shadowhunter hybrid who can use Shadowhunter powers and Downworlder powers without training. I trust them though. I trust them to do that, because if they thought to do it this way, I definitely trust them to do it later if they do introduce this rune of Clary's. So I'm not too worried about that. I like this way of introducing it, the idea. I like the way they handled Valentine and Magnus's powers, even if I'm not so happy that it was so quick to, like, master it. As I say, it's better than just knowing off the drop of your hat. So on to that. So first thoughts, I want to discuss this concept first and how it compares to the books before I actually discussed my first thoughts, because I felt like I couldn't decide whether to put the concept discussion into Fair and Unbiased or first thoughts, but I feel like I'll have enough to talk about in Fair and Unbiased. I just decided to go ahead and discuss it here in first thoughts. My number one thought, and I'm pretty sure it was a lot of people's first thoughts too, Harry and Alan's acting in this episode. I talked about Harry's acting last episode, but I didn't really touch on Alan because it was hard to really tell much because all he said was help me. But this time, I can. He is fantastic. They're both brilliant. They need all the Oscars. Just give them all the Oscars already. Is it possible just to give two people all the Oscars? Just give them all the Oscars, because the way that they imitated each other in this episode was, it bowled me over, alright? It bowled me over. Even when Alan and Matthew Daddario were interacting, you would almost think it was Magnus and Alec talking to each other if it weren't for the fact that Alec was kind of, you know, stay at a distance kind of thing. But I don't know what words to use, but I'll try. Even when they were interacting with each other as Magnus and Valentine's body and Valentine and Magnus's body, they both just worked so well. If it weren't for the fact that they were two different bodies, you would honestly think that they were their characters. And there was a nice shot when Magnus and Valentine were talking to each other with the divide of the glass case, like Magnus's reflection. Well, Magnus's body's reflection was like right in front of Valentine's body, as if, you know, Magnus's consciousness is sort of reflected on the mirror. I'll show the clip. You'll get what I mean. I'm not an analysis. I don't know how to describe it properly, but the way I saw it was that it was kind of like Magnus's self reflecting on the mirror window thing, as if to say Magnus's self is in the body right now, in Valentine's body. And I thought that was very clever, and it immediately struck me, that shot. I was just like, oh wow, so that's really, like, I'm not gonna say like artistic, I don't know if that's the right word. It was just a nice shot. I liked it. I thought it was very clever, and I thought it worked really well with the conversation and the situation that was happening. But yes, their acting, I can get a hold of all the Oscars. It's all I can offer. I'm sorry, I know it's small, but there. Have Erin's mini Oscar. It's not as good as a real Oscar, and it's a lot smaller, and there's no engraving on it, but it's an Oscar. That's how much I love their acting in this episode. Even like Alan imitating the way Harry does Magnus's mannerisms, like the way when he was doing the spell, like the way he did his hands and everything, and even the way he was sitting in his cell, sort of like with his hand like that. All of it adds up to building this impression that they are in each other's bodies. I loved it. I thought it worked so well. I thought it was really clever, and we didn't really get to see a lot of Alan's acting prowess in these past seasons. All we really got was, ooh, the big bad Shadowhunter. But now we actually get to see him express his real acting ability. We saw how far Harry's acting ability can stretch. How much farther is this going to stretch? They're just going to push these actors to their limits and see how amazing they can get. And I am totally there for it. I am. Sign me the fuck up. Oh my god. When Alec had his doubts, I was like, yes, have your doubts, do this. Like, it's Magnus and Valentine's body. And then Jace planted doubt in his head, and I was so angry. I'm still angry, because that would have meant that they wouldn't have had to go through the execution thing. Why are you here, Jace? Just go away. Please. We're so close to Agnes not having to endure that execution, and Jace is like, oh, it's Valentine, he tricks people. Oh, I could have been a warlock that stole your memories. I have to be fair on Jace though, because I was trying to be fair on Alec last episode. That was probably the right way of thinking, that they probably did think it was Valentine just messing with them, but doesn't mean I have to be any happier about it, because it was fair thinking. It just really annoyed me because Alec was like this close, just this close to believing that Magnus was in Valentine's body, and then poor Magnus had to endure that stupid execution. I was loving Alec's archery in this episode. I know it was only once, but honestly, I love archery as a talent and a way of fighting. I always have. If my Hunger Games posters don't give that away, I'm a big fan of archery. Not that being a fan of the Hunger Games makes you a fan of archery, but I've grown used to seeing people fight with archery, let's just say. And honestly, just getting to see Alec using it, because I try not to compare the show to the books in these episodes. That's what the podcast is for. But you really don't get to see Alec use his archery enough. And I really liked the fact that it was Alec who destroyed Azazel instead of like Jace or Clary or someone else. Alec got to do it because, again, in the books, Alec hasn't even destroyed a normal demon. Because logic. I liked seeing Alec being badass, and even though he was thrown out of the way by a greater demon, he was still able to pull out his bow and his quiver, and he was still able to shoot that bitch and destroy him. Although Azazel might come back, because they said that greater demons do kind of return. Azazel might come back because it was mentioned by Sebastian that greater demons can restore themselves. And I don't think that incentive was put in there unless it was going to be utilised. So I definitely think we're going to see more of Azazel. But right now I'm just going to bask in the badassery of Alec destroying him with his archery after being swiped out of the way by magic, okay? Let me have this moment. Oh my god, I thought this episode was going to turn into Let's Not Tell, because last episode, Jace didn't tell Clary they were siblings, and then Clary decided not to tell Simon that they're siblings. What even is this logic? Everyone should just know what is going on so they know where they stand and not have to worry about this stupid sibling thing going on. Thankfully now it's completely destroyed. Everyone knows that Clary and Jace aren't siblings anymore, which is a lot more relieving than having the whole someone doesn't know big reveal thing. And thankfully, Simon wasn't too upset by the fact that Clary didn't tell him, because I couldn't stand another misunderstanding plot. I hate those things. And climate isn't going to last much longer anyway, so having a misunderstanding plot would just be a complete waste of time, to be honest. But no, everyone knows now, thank God. Everyone knows. Get all the sibling grossness out of the way now. No one knows. Copious can start getting back to normal without it being weird, and we can all just be comforted in the fact that they are not siblings anymore. Well, they never were siblings, but they know they're not siblings now, so we don't have to worry about them wanting to be kissy and gross while they're relatives, because it then goes without saying, gross. Jace beats Clary in their combat fight, thank God. As I was sitting watching it, it was a sneak peek that Shadowhunters TV released, but I was so worried. I was sitting going, I didn't watch it, and I was sitting going, Clary is going to beat him. Mary Sue Fray continues. Just don't do this. Don't make her do this. Jace is the best Shadowhunter. Is she going to be the best Shadowhunter? You know, Jace beat her. Thank God. Anytime that Clary gets beaten in combat, I kind of note it. Because after the first episode of season 2A, where she beat Isabel, I've been weary of the Shadowhunters writers' decisions when it comes to writing Clary fighting, because no, she hasn't trained enough. I've barely seen her train. I've seen her do combat scenes a couple of times. I've never really seen her do any proper weapons training. She does not know how to beat these Shadowhunters, and I don't care. The angel blood does not constitute her beating people who have been working their entire lives to learn how to fight. And besides, Jace has angel blood anyway, so if she had have beat him, you would have been getting a rant. But she didn't. She lost. Thank God. Thank fucking God. Mary Sue Fray is hard enough to swallow as is. I don't want any more reason not to be able to cope with her. Copious, we got climbing, and now Sizzy's in the mix too. We've hit the triplet of ships that were not immediately made canon in season 2A. Malec is fine. Malec has been canon since episode 12 of season 1, but these three have kind of been on a kind of, like, they're kind of been on a wavering kind of thing, unsure, not really canon yet, but not exactly, / they've just sort of been there in a kind of nebulous grey area. But now they're on their way. Well, Climbing's on the way out, but Simon is on the way out of Climbing and going straight into Sizzy, so don't have to worry about him being alone. But yeah, the main focus here is that Sizzy, Simon, and Isabel are finally interacting with each other, and Todd Sapkin did say multiple times that Sizzy was going to be a slow burn. So I like that. I mean, I know a lot of Sizzy fans have been kind of in pain because they haven't been able to have their ship kind of recognised yet. But honestly, would you rather have it being so quick? Kind of like the way Clace was, have it so quick that it barely feels genuine. I would rather have the build-up and make it feel more genuine, have more interactions before you form a bond. All this waiting just means that Sizzy will be a lot more stronger when they finally get together. Because trust me, again, in the books, it is the most random, spontaneous thing that has ever happened, ship-wise. It just happens, and it's just like, oh, okay, they're together now. So I'm quite interested to see how they're going to build up Isabel and Simon's relationship and make it stronger, and when they're eventually going to become canon. I don't know if it'll be this season. I don't think it will be, but I'm putting my money on it happening in season 3. To keep no anyway. Hopefully I'll remember that I made this bet when season 3 happens, because then I can collect if I'm right. Malec. Yeah. I want to talk about Malec more in Fair and Unbiased because it was a kind of potent theme in this episode, and it was very plot orientated as opposed to just being a side kind of thing going on with them to kind of distract from the main plot. It was woven into the plot. This is part of the plot. So Malec in this episode was hard to bear in a kind of like emotional sort of way. Obviously, Alec didn't immediately go, well, Valentine must be telling the truth, he must be Magnus. So there was a lot of hard stuff that we had to witness in this episode. And as I say, I'm going to go into more detail in that Malec-wise in Fair and Unbiased. But yeah, it was very hard to watch at some points. But I think it's a testament to the actors. It was a testament to their ability to be able to be emotional and take on these plots as if they are really happening. But yeah, Malec was definitely one of the more difficult factors to watch. Not in the fact that it was bad, just more in the fact that it was hard to witness. But I can't even say that everything's okay now, because it's not, because the get out scene was not Valentine. It is probably the next episode. After watching the promo, I can almost for sure definitely say that the get out scene is next episode, and it is most definitely Magnus, not Valentine, and we're getting more Malec angst. So that's just great. But yes, I'll talk about that more in Fair and Unbiased. I'll talk about the plot more in Fair and Unbiased. I'll talk about Claire and Sebastian, what was going on, the Jace reveal. I'll talk about that in Fair and Unbiased too. I'm going to talk about all the emotions that were flying around. There's a lot to talk about in Fair and Unbiased this week. But yes, those are my first thoughts on You're Not Your Own. I will see you at the end of the week, Shadowhunters, Angels, and Darnwell Dislike. And remember, this can be an Oscar. Just a tiny Oscar. Still an Oscar.